Welcome back to the show. The number of social media influencers is rising and their power is growing. But what really drives companies to seek out this new age ambassadors? And what does it mean to become an influencer? It's an interesting discussion, and joining us for it is Donahoe, who's the CEO of Level Agency and the author of the CEO's Digital Marketing Playbook. He joins us from Charleston. Joining us in the studios is Maheen Farhan, who's a digital marketing expert. Thank you both for joining us and welcome to the show. Mr. Thomas Donahoe, let me begin with you. Now, when we're seeing this rise and market analysts predict that it's going to continue to rise, relying on social media influencers as a marketing tool, what do you think is driving it?
Well, from a digital advertising and digital marketing standpoint, our clients and many, many others are always looking for new, more efficient ways to spend money. Mm-hmm. You have in our industry two giant players, Google and Facebook, and then you've got a half dozen smaller ones. Now, they're still giant companies like LinkedIn, Snapchat, but they're less efficient and they're less ostensibly profitable from an advertiser standpoint. So in our industry, you do have a lot of concentration, a lot of advertising dollars going specifically to Google and Facebook. So advertisers and agencies like ours naturally always want another option. And the influencer channel, if you can call it that, or the marketplace, might offer that in 2020 and going forward.
Right, and of course there's distinct reasons why one channel is preferred to all the others. When we look at past trends, what do you think has been working for these individual influencers, which is of course giving them a popularity boost, but also getting a lot of companies to gravitate towards them?
Sure, from a marketing and advertising standpoint, there are two types. You can break marketing into a few different categories, but there's what's called brand marketing and direct response. Brand marketing is what companies like Coke or Pepsi like to do. They don't need to encourage people to switch their soda choices, but they just deploy billions of dollars every year to consistently get out their message without needing someone to run into the store and buy a Coca-Cola. Direct response is different. Direct response is when you spend money, you expect people to walk into your store to go online and buy something soon. And so influencers have really received a lot of benefit and money from brand advertisers that want popular online personalities and, again, influencers to mention their name and their products. So it's much more about brand marketing than direct response, but we're seeing a little more of the companies in that second category, most of the companies that we represent, starting to test the influencer marketplace.
Mr. Thomas Donahoe, now, Maheen, of course, says here that these influencers have lifestyles that people don't usually have but would like to aspire towards. Now, my understanding about it has been a little different, and I want to get your take on this as well, that it's the relatability element which allows people to gravitate towards these influencers. What side do you pick and choose, and how do you see this matter?
So I agree with Maheen. The content benefit for corporations to spend money within the influencer marketing channel with influencers. There is a benefit. It does shorten the runway a bit and lower expenses ostensibly in terms of creating new content. But I think the real key is authenticity. Consumers, and this has been a trend for at least 10 years, there comes a point when advertising professionals, marketing agencies like ours, when we create content on behalf of a client, or when the client creates content, it's often two things. One, it's very singular. It's one advertising campaign with the same actors. Number two, it comes across as inauthentic. And I think one of the benefits, and there are some risks, but the primary benefit is that it's authentic content. And even though many influencers have professional grade cameras and lighting and sound, it's still an authentic, curated experience. I think that's a big benefit.
What do you think? Sorry, Mr. Thomas Donahoe, for interjecting here, but do you think that people don't you think that people are catching up to this idea of authenticity when these are paid content, influencers, marketers? I mean, many a times it says so in their bios, or, from the fact of how they promote the product, people catch on to that.
No, I mean, absolutely. I don't think you're going to get an advertising experience where there is a physical product in someone's hand, whether it's a professional corporate commercial or an influencer with 50,000 followers doing this herself, you're still going to have the aspect of a paid advertisement. So I don't see in this marketplace or in the general marketing ecosystem for that to be eliminated. But again, I'll go back to the variety and maybe the uniqueness, because that influencer knows his or her audience better than anybody else. And so I would feel that one of the reasons that they got popular in the first place is that they had the right tone or message or cadence to speak to that audience. And I think that's important.
Mr. Donahoe, now, Maheen gave the example of Kim Kardashian, and we know the world is polarized when it comes to the Kardashian family. Many people like them, many people hate them. Now, when we talk about people, personalities becoming influencers, is there a risk of the product being conflated with the influencer?
Absolutely. There is a risk, not just in terms of the pairing of the influencer and the product, but to a certain extent, brands are taking a risk by allowing influencers to curate and create content. Now, there are guidelines and there are larger brands try to keep a tighter control, but at the end of the day, this is, again, not shot in a large studio. This is not under direct control of the corporation. So brands are taking a little bit of a risk. But the unique thing is some brands that cannot participate in a lot of the other traditional channels for a few different reasons, they are forced to test markets that can advertise certain products. Here in the United States, the cannabis industry, the marijuana industry, which is very politically charged, Facebook allows some of it. Google won't touch it at all. A lot of these products that are very, very popular, that are making and spending billions of dollars, they need to go into this market because the regulations at this time are much looser.
Right. Mr. Donahoe, when we're talking about the risks that companies take, how are these risks managed and mitigated? If you take a risk in dipping into an influencer's popularity, how is that risk balanced off? How do companies do it?
Sure. Well, primarily they'll use agencies like ours. So we're the intermediary. We're the pipeline of both spending a brand's, a company's money, marketing budget, but it's our responsibility to police and help curate and help make the messages consistent and profitable. So primarily they do need to rely on an agency like ours. How we do that is there is quite a bit of due diligence. There are a handful of marketplaces. A lot of those are born here in the United States, and they are starting to gain traction internationally. But there are marketplaces where there are thousands and thousands of influencers that set up profiles similar to a social network. And these marketplaces attract companies like mine, and we ostensibly shop for influencers. And there's a lot of research that goes into it. We do absolutely make sure that we do some background checks, that their numbers, their followers, and their engagement rates are good enough that we want to take the risk. And obviously there's the price tag. So there's some due diligence involved.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Thomas Donahoe, for taking out the time and talking to us from Charleston, giving us your insight into all of this.